this place real? That depends. If real is what you can feel, smell, taste, and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain. Pikachu, I have in my hand 2 pills. You take the blue pill, and the story ends now. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the Diglett hole goes. But be warned, dive too deep, and you may never return.
Welcome to Sports Cards once again, and this is the second ever live stream on this channel, and we are joined today by Chris from Infinite Investment Game. I've actually done a not a live stream, but a recorded Zoom call with him on his channel before. If you guys wanted to go check that out, we had an interesting conversation about a whole bunch of topics. And before we get started on the topics today, Chris, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell people who you are, what you're about.
Yeah, so I'm Chris from Infinite Investment Game. My channel focuses specifically on alternative investments. Lately, I've been talking more about sports cards and TCG cards, CCG like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic the Gathering, stuff like that. And I talk about, collecting, but also I talk about if you want to invest and flip, more so being smart about it and doing things for the long term. And hopefully doing things, for the right and ethical reasons. And I'm also get into graded video games, comic books, and eventually I'm going to make a video on artwork. So I cover all kinds of stuff as far as that.
Cool. And I remember from our last conversation, your background was especially in the TCG stuff, although you've always been interested in sports, but then sports cards themselves was a bit more recent.
Yeah. I got into cards. I originally started learning about cards in 2018. But then I really started buying stuff in 2019, close to end of summer 2019. I started buying cards, and then things took off, and partly because Gary V kind of created a roadmap to, and I guess sports card investor too, like a roadmap to actually learning about cards. Because before then, it made it seem like the only thing you could really buy that was either valuable or even collectible was stuff that had to been thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars in a sense.
Okay. Very cool. All right. So today, so Chris sent over a handful of topic ideas, and I really like these ideas. So maybe I can just share the highlights, the different topics that we're planning on discussing, and then we can kind of go into it. And if anybody, I see there's one other person live. If you guys have any thoughts or want to share anything, please do as well. Chris, are you still there? It seems like your picture froze up. I still don't. Okay. So the topics that we're thinking about for this live stream here is we're going to look at redemption cards, the future of redemption cards, how to fix the issues with redemption cards. We're going to look at breaks, the shadiness from breaks, how to protect yourself in breaks. We're going to look at how to thrive in the hobby despite monopolies. We're going to look at the continued decline of the high-end cards. And we're going to look at the rise of more critical content on YouTube and other social media spaces over mania content. So these were some of the topic ideas that Chris had shared, and I thought these were all great topics that we could easily discuss for a long time. So maybe we can just start right in on the one about redemption cards. So when you came up with this thought, Chris, what was it that kind of came to your mind that made you want to discuss the future of redemption cards and how to fix its issues?
Yeah. So there are a couple of things. One, kind of personal experience. Like if you buy packs, buy boxes and things, and you let's say you open up stuff, 9 times out of 10, at some point you're gonna get a redemption. A lot of times when I've done that, it's been expired. Or if I sold boxes or packs, it's been expired. Someone, messaged me back on eBay and it's like, hey, this is expired. And I'm like, and this is probably my first time actually when it came to redemptions. And I was like, wait, what? I knew it had a redemption, but like they just expire like that. And I was like, didn't it come out last year? Like,
Yeah. It makes it hard to hold on to any product long term too. You know, if there's any like good quality stuff and it's going to be redemption. And just recently, you know, Panini made an announcement that said that they weren't going to be honoring old expired redemptions. They, you know, they never said that they would absolutely promise to, but they were always kind of making an effort, it seems. But more recently, they're just like, whatever, you know, if it's expired, it's no longer worth anything. So it's really unfortunate.
Yeah, and then I think Sports Card Radio kind of talked about I guess they're kind of controversial to some content creators, but like about kind of like the start of redemptions, and it seemed like it was kind of like it was almost like a IOU or like some kind of weird, almost like some kind of weird loan in a sense. And you know, something that you would have to like call back later on, but it's almost like I don't want to say get out of jail free card, but it's just like a loophole to kind of play the system in a sense to make people want to get the product, even though you don't really have the product, and you may never get the product. That's kind of like the scary part. And I heard from different content creators only about I guess about 75% of redemptions are actually redeemed, and the other 25% never will be. So it's like you have that issue, and I'm glad it's not worse. Like, I'll be positive. I'm glad it's not worse. So majority of times, if there's a redemption, you're gonna get that card. But it's one of those things where sometimes for those redemptions, that could be one of the main things that people want to get or collect in a sense. And
the highlights of the set.
Yeah. And then it's one of those things where I don't know if they actually still make the card, and if people don't you know, redeem the card at a certain period of time, it just goes to somebody in the organization and they keep it, and then one day they sell it or something, or they just don't make the card in general. I guess there could be variety in that, but I think that's a huge issue, and I think there should be a conversation. Should we even need redemptions anymore? Just because the technology that we even use to make cards is way better than what it was when redemption started. And the truth of the matter is, I don't think you should just the stuff that you need hardcore signatures or certain sets, maybe just come out with those later, and you know, and have all the other sets come out much earlier in a sense, just to do things to try to avoid this, because I think eventually, even for younger players, especially rookies, they probably want to sign cards because they're going to get a paycheck from it, and whatever extra income they want, they're going to try and go and get that. And especially even before, like with Leaf products and stuff like that, like you know, that's their first big money before they get their payouts from the contract. And you know, people want the first ever autos or whatever from someone. So I think those things probably should be thought of. And I think the other thing with redemptions is it's kind of like a traditional type thing. So there's so many people used to it, and when a bunch of people get used to it, that's just being the way it is. They don't want to change it. But that doesn't mean that it's always been that way. That doesn't mean it's the better way to have it.
Yeah, that's true. It's tough, you know, because, you know, I would think of, like, from a business standpoint, you know, the challenge, it seems to me, is you know, that there's so much that's out of your control, you know, that there's so many players. I think what you said, though, is really a important point, that, you know, when the rookies are just coming into the league, or they're kind of, you know, they're new to the whole space, you know, they're probably more likely, more eager to be the kinds in a position where they'll be more eager to sign the autographs, than they might be, a little bit once they're into the league and they're starting to get real busy and on a steep learning curve and trying to figure everything out and getting used to their teammates and all those other different things. It might be harder then, but if there's kind of a push, an effort made kind of in advance a little bit, that maybe it would be reduced. But even then it's tough, because from a business angle, there's so many people, and there's gonna always be something that's out of control, out of your control. So it's also really hard to say, like, because if they got rid of redemption cards completely, maybe they could release some of the lower end products earlier, like you suggested, that wouldn't have any massive big hits. But then, even lower end products, that would probably affect the value, the long-term value as well, and things like that. So it's tough. I don't think it's an easy problem to solve. It's clearly a problem. Redemption cards are clearly a problem. And personally, I feel like if they were redeemed in a timely manner, like if you could rely on a redemption to get the card within a few months or something like that, I don't think anybody would have a major issue with it. I think the issue is that there's these redemptions that stretch on infinitely, and that there's no clear solution, or there's no clear approach for how to solve the unendingness of it.
Yeah, I guess one thing, there's another idea. If you get a redemption, you pull a redemption, you could claim a digital card until, and then that gives you access to get the physical card if it's whenever it's available, and there's no like time limit. So I think that's another way that people can probably use things, and maybe use NFTs as, I don't know, say a utility or something like that. I don't know how well Top Shot is doing, but
but I think what you're saying is an interesting idea, because it's something like Top Shot or an NFT that's separate from anything else. I think it has a niche. There's a niche. There's people who are going to be into NFTs who'll be into that. But this gives a connection between the physical thing and the digital thing that could make it have a little bit more space. I think that's a really interesting idea, because if maybe it's even like if you had an NFT redemption, and then if the redemption took over 2 months, like you get some bonus added to your NFT. I don't know what it is, like some physical bonus, like they send out a pack of some cards to you every 2 months if it hasn't been redeemed, or something like that, so that they have some kind of like a, that there's something on their plate that incentivizes them to just go ahead and get this done. Because if they've got 1,000 redemptions out there, and they have to send out 1,000 different products of something else to each of those people who are sitting there waiting, maybe that like kind of just kicks them into gear a little bit more. It just gives them at least some incentive, because right now they don't have a lot of incentive to rush it, other than just the reputation or whatever. But it doesn't seem like Panini and they don't seem to care. I mean, they kind of have monopolies on whatever sports they happen to have the license in, so reputation doesn't really matter that much if you're on a long-term license contract.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah, I wonder if there's other collectibles where people are buying things and there's like redemptions that exist. Because I know in the TCG world, I don't think that's like a real thing, but you don't really have
Probably
like people
not,
trying to sign stuff. You're not using Pikachu's jersey. Like it's not stuff like that. So
Yeah. It's probably just sports, because even like celebrity kind of stuff, like there's nothing that's like a rookie, like the equivalent of a rookie. If a celebrity doesn't make it into this particular whatever leaf pop culture set or whatever, they just go in the next year's one, and it doesn't make a difference really. With sports, there's a bit more of like a time sensitive thing. There's the rookies, and the rookies need to be in every set that's coming out that year. So it's a little bit more, maybe it's a unique scenario in sports cards specifically.